I wasn't always a big shot, I used to be the new kid on the block, just like you are. Can you imagine that the boss of the West Side started out selling booze out of the back of his car? Well, I did. Picture this: Chicago, a muggy evening in the summer of 1920. Prohibition just started, and I found myself a trunk full of booze, looking for anyone willing to buy it. Fortunately, I had a friend from way back, my gal, Maxine. She knew a lot of people. I thought I'd stop by and see if she'd help me out. And sure enough, she did. It turned out her nephew, Alexander, ran a cafe during the day, but distributed slightly more profitable drinks during the night. She said she'd call him, and that I'd be expected. When I got to Alexander's, I discovered I had exactly the kind of merchandise he was looking for. I sold him all the cider I had, and it got me thinking, maybe he trusts me enough to help me out a bit. What with Maxine's vouching for me and all. So I said, now that we're friends, would you know anyone else who would benefit from these deliveries? So he told me about his friend, Audrey. She ran a pool hall nearby. This sounded like a great place to dump more of my booze, so I said, she sounds like a useful contact. We could probably do business together, to everyone's benefit. Would you do me a favor and put in a good word for me? Your recommendation would count for a lot. He agreed, and after a brief phone call, told me to go over. And that was just the in I needed. I headed over to Audrey's, and we hit it off right away. Turns out, she was in the market for all sorts of deliveries. At this point, I only had some wine left, so that's all I could sell. But, thanks to Alex vouching for me, she didn't mind when I asked for a bit more than the going price. As capital investment into my growing business. And all this talk about business reminded me. My brother Fred had been wanting to talk about some kind of deal he'd cooked up. He's a bit of a loafer, but he's got his ear to the ground and knows whenever something falls off the back of a truck. I never used to have enough cash to take him up on his schemes, but now I did. The next morning, flush with cash from my profitable ventures, I headed over to see Fred. Sure enough, he tipped me off about some cartons of cigarettes that had suddenly come into his possession. And for enough cash, they could come into mine. How could I refuse? Of course, I wanted to be in on that. It took him a while, and I even started to think that he double-crossed me. But a couple weeks later, the cartons showed up at my safe house. I knew just the man who would be interested in buying, so I loaded up and went to visit my friend Adolf Becker. He wasn't opposed to selling fenced smokes at his restaurant. It's not like his customers would know any better, and I got to offload my newly acquired items at a handsome profit. As I walked out of Becker's, I realized I had a good reputation on this block. People knew who I was. It was time to take over this corner. I had to make sure everybody around here knew who was in charge and who this corner belonged to. So I went back to Becker's and said, hey, I need you to do me a favor. I'm going to strong-arm a few locals and offer my protection. And I want you to collect their donations for me. Becker was game, and soon enough my outfit was running the corner. Becker even suggested we could expand with a mixture of a few well-placed payoffs and a few examples of why it's important for people to be under my wing. Because if they didn't get my protection, there were other, worse outfits out there, just waiting to pounce. Before they knew it, I had the whole neighborhood tied up. And then it was time for a bit of the old quid pro quo. I gave them my protection, and they gave me their cash. And if anyone tried to decline, they quickly learned about the misfortunes I was protecting them from. And once you have money and territory, you can start hiring associates. Becker introduced me to my first associate. It was his cousin, Chester. He was a good kid, quiet, but God rest his soul, he was not a fighter. I should have known better, but I hired him anyway. I needed people. We were doing well. Booze was flowing, money was rolling in, and things were on the up and up.